Hi everyone, welcome once again to A.O.S Abroad, and thank you very very much for joining today's episode. And today we have a very wonderful conversation to actually talk about. This is a conversation centered on Canadian passports. Do you understand Canadian passport? And today we are going to be taking trending, another trending conversation on from cicnews.com, which is the Canadian Immigration and Citizenship News website. And today we want to take the conversation that centers on the Canadian passport. And this conversation talks about Canadian passport, which continues to top or to rank higher than the US passport in latest global ranking. So you can go on the link that we are sharing on the screen on YouTube to actually read this article yourself. And today I'm going to be talking about this article. I'll be expanding and expatiating on the idea behind the rankings of the Canadian passport. Now, there are other passports that also rank apart from the Canadian passport, but today, many people, when we are talking about Northern America, a lot of people always talk about Canada and the US, and people always want to differentiate between them and see how exactly they actually compare with one another. So today, we are going to be comparing and contrasting between one particular vital, important what they call it aspect of the two countries, Canada and the US. Now, for Canada, we have our own passport, of course, just like every other country, and Nigeria also have their own passport. So I want to, very not long ago, I actually went to Service Canada, and we 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 went to actually work on the passport of another person, and even there and then we saw a lot of what do you call it now? A lot of peculiarities towards the Canadian passport, how it is different from Nigeria. No, even though Nigeria is not in the comparison today, because we can't be comparing a first world country and a third world country. There's no comparison whatsoever. But even the service of getting a passport in, you understand, Service Canada or the Passport Office of Canada, it's so different from how you are being served in Nigeria. I was talking to my brother in the US, and I was telling him that when we went to actually work on the passport in Canada, and the way you are being treated right from the very entrance of the, you understand, immigration office or the Service Canada office, it's so different from the way you are being treated when you are going to actually maybe renew your passport or get a fresh passport and the likes in Canada, in Nigeria. You understand? In Nigeria, when you are going to the passport office, is like you are set. Your mindset is that you are going to actually fight, or you are going to, well, I'm not say fight, but you are going to struggle to actually get things done. You understand? And if you don't know someone that can help you, you understand, in the process of you getting your passports quickly, you understand, cheaply and the likes. Even sometimes, if you even know someone, you may have to still even pay, you understand, to get a premium service. But you understand, going to Service Canada, going to the passport office in Canada to get a passport, you understand, I saw so many differences within Canada that I myself, being a Nigerian, still a Nigerian, I see that in Nigeria, we as Nigerians are not even treated like that in Nigeria. You understand? And here I am in another man's country. Here I am in another first world country. You understand? In a first world country, not like a third world country like Nigeria. And I am being treated as if I am part of them. I am being treated as if I am a Canadian. It just shows that there is a huge difference between how. Now we're talking about the service. We're not even talking about the passport yet. My brother in the US, when I was talking to him this morning, he made a distinction between even the countries that you have access to by virtue of either the Canadian passport or the you understand, American passport, and the differences between the Nigerian passport, because Nigerian passport, yes, they will say that you can go to some other countries, you understand, but at the end of the day, you can't go to first world countries majorly with only the Nigerian passport. You will need, you understand, visas to actually get access to those countries. So it's not kind of mind boggling that with the privileges you enjoy having some Canadian passports, or you understand American passports, you kind of not struggle, you don't stress much to get those passports, or to, you understand, enter to see if you are qualified or eligible to get this passport, than you being in Nigeria and trying to seek passports. I talked about, you understand, or I'm talking about my own experience trying to renew a passport in a Nigerian setting. You understand? I'm a Nigerian, I had a passport, and to renew a passport in Nigeria will take you to know someone that can help you process it, you understand, faster, or you understand, you still even pay for express service. But entering a facility in Canada to go get a fresh passport, firstly, I didn't spend up to 20 minutes there. You understand, renewing, or you understand, getting a fresh passport for one of the clients that we are actually working with. We didn't spend up to 30 minutes. What am I even saying? 20 minutes. We didn't spend up to 20 minutes, and we were treated with so much respect that we were even thinking maybe it came with a kind of, you understand, a kind of trade-off. But there was no trade-off. It was not because they were doing it because they had an agenda. It's just that the service, the way you are treated, the way you are appreciated, the way you understand, you are not being treated as if you don't matter, basically. You are not being treated as if you are not a citizen. Yes, I'm not a citizen already, you understand, in Canada, but even as a permanent resident, entering the Service Canada, when of course nobody committed a crime, but entering there in Nigeria, they will make you feel as if you are committing a crime to come and get a passport. You understand? They will make you feel as if you are committing a crime by wanting to actually get premium service. But here I am here in Canada, going to the Service Canada to get a passport, you understand, for a client, and making sure that everything falls short, if everything works well, there is no issue. In fact, because I'm not the one that is getting the passport, I was having the mentality that if I go to the Service Canada, what they call it, location, or you understand, passport office, I will not be treated like, you understand. That was my own thinking. That was my own thinking. I may be wrong, but I was thinking that you understand, I won't be treated with so much respect. I won't be treated as if, you understand, they will say, should you are not the one that is getting the passport, we are go out. You understand how they always do now in Nigeria? That let the person that wants the passport to come in. You understand, they'll be talking to you as if, you understand, you are vexing them. I don't know if you understand. I don't know if you have ever witnessed it in Nigeria. You understand? They'll be talking to you. You understand, with so much disdain, and you feel that tension. You feel that, you understand, that conflict rise, as if, you understand, you are not paying for a particular service. But there was so much difference between the way I was treated in Nigeria when I was even getting passport for myself, than the way I was treated in Canada when I was even trying to work on the passport for another person. You understand? Which is not even myself. So, like, basically, when we are talking about today, we want to talk about the ranking, the global ranking of passports, and we want to really center on Canadian passports being ranking higher than US passports, the United States of America passports. But I just wanted to give a kind of preamble about my own experience renewing my own passport in Nigeria versus my own experience getting a fresh passport for someone that is our client in Canada. And I see that there is a stark difference. And my brother was saying it, as I said, when we were talking today about it, that is it the Nigerian passports that doesn't even have that so much ranking, doesn't have so much power or authority in the world, that they are doing anyhow for you to get it in Nigeria. Whereas in Canada, you understand, you get premium service, which of course it's not that I paid any premium, it's not that I said, okay, I'll go and meet one officer and give one officer one money and say, okay, because you are like you understand, I want premium service, so you collect this kind of money, or you understand, thing to service to serve me well. No, I didn't have to pay anything extra. I didn't have to pay anything more to go to, or to, you understand, get that premium service in the Service Canada location I went. So that's just to tell you that sometimes it's not even only about the ranking of the visa, the passport. Sometimes the service you get would make even one passport in your own ranking higher, will make one country in your own ranking even higher than, you understand, another place where you are not even respected, or you don't have that premium service that you get without having to pay for it. Do you understand? So I just said I should just put that as a preamble. Today's conversation, as I said, is centered on Canada's passport and how Canada's passport continues to top the US passport in the latest global ranking. Today I was talking to my brother, just like I said, in the US, and on the phone he was telling me that US passport, you understand, has so much value. The US passport ranks, and you have access to top countries, lots of countries. You understand that you travel to with the US passport, and it's true. It's not a fluke. It's not a fluke. It's fact. You understand? It's very true. However, the Canadian passport, based on the article we are going to be talking about today, is another passport that ranks even higher than the US passport. Why did I say that? Okay, Walton88, thank you for liking our live session on TikTok. Why do I say that? It's because the global latest ranking of the Canadian passport actually shows it. So today, I'm not just going to be talking about the Nigerian passport and the service, the service that we experience while we are trying to renew our passport in Nigeria, but I would also be talking about the Canadian passport versus the US passport. So today I'll be making use of the latest article on cicnews.com, which is the Canadian Immigration and Citizenship News.com website. And this website, for many of you that join our live sessions, we always use this website articles to talk about trending topics in Canada, because sometimes I write newsletter articles. Sometimes I also come on this live session to actually analyze and to evaluate the write-ups that I wrote, the articles I wrote on our own newsletter on LinkedIn. But today I want to talk about the article that I saw on the cicnews.com website. So I hope you actually learn from it. So today's article is centered on Canadian passports continues to top US passport in latest global ranking. What is this global ranking that we have been talking about so much of? Let's look at it. Now, this article was written by Janice Rodriguez, one of the what do you call it? One of the bloggers, or rather the writers that we always talk about. Today, the article was written today, July 23rd, 2025, and it's written about the global citizenship and residence advisory firm, Hernley and Partners. Now, this global citizen and residency advisory firm, Henry and Partners, they have published their latest passport index, with the Canadian passport once again ranking among the world's top 10 most powerful travel documents. Why are people traveling to Canada? Why are people jackpying out of their home country to countries like Canada and the US? One of the reasons may be because of this passport. One of the reasons may be because of their passports. My brother was telling me something when we were conversing. He said there are 2 to 3 reasons why people actually leave their country to come to Canada. And apart from the other many reasons, he said one of the things that he feels is really the major reason why people come is because of the passport. Because you understand, people want to become citizens of countries that value them. People want to become citizens of nations that they will be proud of, to say that, yes, I am an American. Yes, I am a Canadian. Do you understand? Again, some people want to come to these countries because even if they don't have opportunities of becoming Canadians themselves or Americans themselves, they want to be able to say that, yes, my child or my kid is a Canadian. My child or my kid is an American, right? So that's one of the reasons why people come to countries like this. Again, some people, my brother also said, one of the reasons people want to also come to countries like this, you understand, and become their citizens is because of the passport, to be able to have access to other countries, to be able to travel worldwide, to be able to have access to go without any restrictions to any nation or any country of their choice, right? And of course, for many people that are online, if you follow people like Tayo Aino, if you follow people like Steven Nduku from Nigeria, these are Nigerians, and they are travel bloggers. These are vloggers. I won't even call them vloggers. These are content creators that, you understand, talk about travels and things like that. You know that some of the issues they face is the passports, the green passports that they have from Nigeria. Even after all the stress of getting the passport in Nigeria, Even after all the ways that they will make you feel as if you are begging them to give them the passport. At the end of the day, the passport is more or less worthless in some other countries, because once they see that green passport with you, they kind of stereotype you. Once they see that passport with you, they think you are a scammer. Once they see that passport with you, they think you are a fraud. You are an online scammer. And at the end of the day, you are a fraudster. That's just it. It's sad. It's sad. But that's the you understand the reality of things. And if we're not trying to be emotional about this, if we're trying to be realistic, we understand what that actually means to our you understand to our image abroad. So that's why many people want to go for. I remember Tayo, saying that he went to go and get the passport of St. Kitts and Nevis. He paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to actually get that passport. Do you understand? But in Canada, you may actually get the passport without paying hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that is the beauty. That is where we come in. That is where we always tell people, because of course it's what we are doing at A.O.S abroad. We assist people together with our immigration partners to get qualified to become citizens of Canada. Do you understand? We assist people to get qualified to become, or to become eligible to become citizens at a later date. And how is that? For you to become a permanent resident first. If you don't become a permanent resident now, you understand, it will be difficult for you 2 3 years down the line, or 1075 days after, to become citizens of the country. So the first thing, the first goal is to actually help you come into the country, not come into the country as a visitor, as a student, as a worker, anyhow, but to come into Canada with the right documentation, with the right passport, with the right status, so that at the end of the day, you too, you will be able to get to enjoy the perks and the benefits and the privileges of what? Of being what? Of being a citizen of a first world country. So let's move on. In the article today, we want to talk about the Global Citizenship and Residence Advisory firm, Henley, Henley and Partners. And we said they published their latest passport index, with the Canadian passport once again ranking among the world's top 10 most powerful travel documents. And they said in the latest Henley Passport Index, released on the 22nd of July, which was yesterday. Today is 23rd of July, right? 22nd of July, they released it. They said Canada ranks in the 8th position, sharing the spot with the United Arab Emirates and Estonia. Look at this. Even though we are still going to see a lot left, Canada can still do better. You understand? It's just the truth. Canada can still do, because 8th position, but that just shows that at least there. I know my own country is like in the 90 something or 100 something positions. You understand? Nigeria is like back. So for me, being a Nigerian and being in a country that I most likely, by God's grace, will be able to become citizen, you understand, in some few months, and the country that I am being in the 8th position, shows that at least that is a huge what they call it advantage, from being from a country that was in the 90th or 100th or 160 something position to hit. That's multiple times promotion. You understand? Multiple times promotion. So, but let's move on. They said the Henley Passport Index uses exclusive information from the International Air Transport Association, that is IATA. So many travel agents that know that association, and ranks passports based on the number of destinations their holders can visit without a prior visa. Walton 88, thank you very much. 88, thank you for liking live on TikTok. Now, what are they telling us here? What they are telling us is the International Air Transport Association, IATA. This is an association that has, you understand, they have information. They have information about the country's passports that you have, that would allow you access to other countries, to go there for maybe 10 days, 30 days, 60 days, or even up to more than 180 days, without necessarily having a visa before you can enter that country. Do you understand? And as per the latest ranking, The Canadian passport holders can visit 184 countries without prior visa. Look at that. As of right now, the Canadian passport can allow you access to visit 184 countries without prior visa. So that means without you having study permit from that country, without you having work permit, visitor visa, you understand, you can enter just with that your international passport, which is a Canadian international passport. You can enter into what? Into those 184 countries visa free, basically. Either visa free, and sometimes they will say visa on arrival. Now, how does the Canadian passports, how does Canada basically compare with previous rankings? Now let's look at it. They said the Canadian passport slipped a position compared to January 2025. You understand? When it's ranked in the seventh place. Seventh place. So that's why I said it. That of course Canada can do better. You understand? But before it was in the seventh place and it's granted access to 188 destinations without prior visa. So basically, what it means is that before, instead of the 184, before we had 188 countries we could go visa free if you were a Canadian with a Canadian passport. So 4 countries right now, out of those 188 before, requires you to have a visa, but before it didn't require. Now, despite this, and sometimes you can't do without that because, of course, a country can decide to require visas from other countries. You can't, sometimes you don't have any power against other countries to require visas or not from you. Do you understand? But despite this, despite the ranking of the Canadian passport being lower, instead of being in the seventh place, now being in the eighth position, the Canadian passport continues to beat out the US passport because many people would always want to compare between Canada and US, and I know that is why this article is also comparing between Canada and US. That yes, Canadian passport has dropped a little. It has dropped from the seventh position to the eighth position, but it still ranks as high as, or it ranks more than what the US passport, which fell to the what, 10th position. The US passport fell to the 10th position. And what does that mean? It means that when the Canadian passport beat out the US passport in January 2025, now that's another thing. Even before this July 2025 um, ranking, the Canadian passport has also beat the US passport in January 2025. It marked the first time since the company started publishing the index in 2006. So the first time the US passport will be beaten by what the Canadian passport was January 2025. Now that's to show you that Canada has always been improving because it beat in 2025, it also beat the US passport in July 2025. Now the US is now on the verge of falling out of the top 10 passport rankings, although for the first time in the index 20-year history. Now, because of course they are already in the 10th position, and if they are not careful to come up to maybe like the ninth or to meet us, even though we too will not wait in the eighth position, else we'll try to go up to like the seventh back or the sixth position. It shows that right now, if US are not careful, they can fall below the 10th what, the 10th position. But that may now ask the question, that may now cause for the question, what are the most powerful passports in the world? What are the most powerful passports in the world? Now, according to the latest Henley Index, Singapore, Singapore topped the chart, offering its passport holders access to 193 countries, 193 visa-free or visa on arrival destinations. Now, what does that mean? If you look at it, 193 to 184. No, let's analyze that. Canada allows you access to 184 destinations right now. Now, Singapore allows you access to 193, which is the topmost country with the most powerful passport in the world. And that is less than 10 destinations that you won't be able to go to visa free with the Canadian passport. For me, I'm still okay with that. I'll not lie to you. I'm still okay with that. I'm still okay with Canada's passport granting me access to 184 because Even in my lifetime self, if I don't want to be using, if I don't want to become a travel vlogger, if I don't want to become someone that how will I call it, that is a content creator talking about immigration for not just Canada alone but other countries, I don't really need the Singapore passport. I'm being frank, I'm being truthful here. I don't really need it. Even the Canadian passport self is already enough for me. You understand? And even more than what I bargained for. Do you understand? And more than what I bargained for. Because you having access to 193 destinations or 184 destinations in terms of Canada is priceless. You may not be able to even visit all those countries in your lifetime. Right? So what we are saying in essence is it may not be necessary to get to the top position, to the Singapore position, before that your Canadian passport is going to be respected. Because look at it, how many countries do we even have in the world? Is about 200 and something. It's not even much. You understand? And those 200 and something is just because of the territories that they have added to it. If you look at real countries, or I'm not saying the country is fake, but if you look at countries that a lot of people know about, a lot of people, countries that are popular, they are already in the 184 countries that are visa free for Canadians. Do you understand? So, apart from the Singapore, which topped the chart, the first country with the best passport, Japan and South Korea tied in the second place, offering access to 190 countries, visa free, or as they say, visa on arrival. Now, there was a seven-way tie for third place amongst European nations like Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, and Spain. These countries offer the passport holders visa-free access to 189 destinations. If you look at all these places, many of these places it's not even easy to get passports. Let's just be frank. It's not easy to become citizens of these countries. Singapore, the first country. In fact, I can say, I'm not sure, but I can say that it may be almost impossible for you to become a Singaporean. Do you understand? Japan and South Korea. Well, how many people want to go there? Do they even have access to allowing you to become citizen? Even if they are willing to give you their citizenship, I think many of these countries you may have to spend 10, 20, or even donkey years before you can become citizen. I may be wrong, I'm just saying, because I remember when I was trying to come to Canada, I checked some of these top countries and I saw that, oh man, it's not easy to become citizen in many of those countries. That's why I stayed to, oh, Canada is more straightforward. You understand? If you come as a permanent resident directly from your home country, you understand, you stay in Canada, you can be rest assured that after 1,096 days, or the equivalent of 3 years, you can become a citizen if you actually qualify, you understand, to become. It's quite straightforward, basically. But in many of these countries, to even become their permanent resident, to become, you understand, a green card holder like in the US, or to become, how they call it, to have that indefinite leave to remain, which is like the one they use in the UK, you may have to go May too. You may have to stress yourself before you can have the opportunity to become, you understand, to become permanent residents in those countries. So it's not only about the countries having access, like their passport having, you understand, strong rankings. The question for immigrants like me and you is that, would you be able to get that passport easily? Do you understand? Would you be able to make sure that not only you get that passport, but your own children have access to getting that passport easily? I think that's where the question comes in. Because at the end of the day, there are some countries that even if you go there and you go and give birth, there's nothing like birth stories. They may not give you their passport. You understand? They may not give you their passport. UAE, I don't think if you go and give birth there, you get their passport. Even though they are in the second position, I guess. Yes, they are in the, okay, no, not UAE. Which one is for this eighth position? Eighth position, like the Canadian passport. I don't think you'll be able to get their citizenship that easily, like as you would get it in Canada. Do you understand? So it is not only about you knowing the countries that have strong passports, but the question boils down that if you browse their website, if you go to maybe like Singaporean immigration website, is there any pathway that is quite easily shown to you that says, okay, if you stay here for 10 years, you get that passport? You understand? And how many people have actually gotten those passports before you? Because that's the thing. Because if you are just there and you don't have access to the passport, and you just maybe went there as a student or as a visitor or as a worker, and you are there and you don't have the benefit of being a citizen, for me, I'm sorry, for me, I may not be able to, you understand, cope in that kind of place. I may not be able to stay long in that kind of place. Do you understand? So basically, okay, they are still saying it. Henry and Partners stated that India has recorded the largest jump in rankings over the past 6 months. Not even Nigeria. Nigeria is not even, they didn't even jump in their own rank. They said climbing from the 85th position to the 77th position. Um, Even that one is significant. It's significant, of course, it is. But again, 77th position where you still have access to countries that were in like the seventh or the eighth position. You understand? If you go and have, even though I know it's not even easy to get an Indian passport, and most times if you even want to, you understand, get another passport, you may have to forfeit the Indian passport to get, like, some of our counterparts in Canada. You understand? Some of our other friends, like immigrants from India, some of them will say, okay, they still want to hold on to their Indian passport and they just want to become permanent residents of Canada. But so as soon as they say they want to become citizens of Canada, they have to forfeit the Indian passport. And for me, I see it as a good trade-off, but I may be wrong. I may not see what they are saying. You understand? But for me, thank God, gracefully, Nigeria allows dual citizenship. Yes. So if you are a citizen of Canada, of Nigeria, you can as well become a citizen of Canada, just like Canada to accept dual citizenship. So it's not that they will say that, okay, if you want to become Canadian, you have to forfeit your Nigerian passport. I think that's the benefit that I enjoy from being a Nigerian. It's just the truth. That's one of the huge benefits I enjoy, because as a Nigerian, you can become a dual citizen and have the passport of Canada and also the passport of Nigeria. Do you understand? So even though India jumped up from 85th position to 77th position, adding two more destinations to the list of visa-free destinations, for me, it's still not even worth going to get their own passport. Saudi Arabia has made the biggest gain in visa-free access, having added four destinations since January. So Saudi Arabia is one of the very lovely, I remember I traveled to the Middle East last year, and one of the countries that came in mind was Saudi Arabia, where we're talking about, can someone actually live there? Can someone, is there an easy pathway? Is there an easy pathway to become a citizen of the country of Saudi Arabia, or the kingdom of Saudi Arabia? And the simple truth, or the simple thing we found out in our own research, is that there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee of you becoming a citizen of Saudi Arabia. In fact, it is much more difficult. It's like 99% chance of you not becoming a citizen. Yes, you can stay there for donkey years. You understand, be renewing your visa, be renewing that's if you want to stay there illegally. Some people are staying there illegally, which it doesn't even favor them. But you can be, if you want to stay legally, you can be renewing your visa, you can be renewing your visa, and you may stay there for donkey years and not get their passport, not even become their citizen. Do you understand? Though we have had some people, like, during my research, I found out that there's some people that are like scientists, physicians, medical practitioners. You understand? People that really contributed a lot in their in their kingdom, which who later got citizenship. But these are people that have been there for like 30, 40 years. These are people that have contributed more or less their lifetime. You understand? In the country before they could get their citizenship. I, for instance, in Canada, I don't need to contribute my lifetime. I don't need to be here for 20, 30, even though I don't even see myself living in Canada. Do you understand? But what I'm trying to say is, you don't need to spend your lifetime, you understand, becoming a citizen of a country, you understand, like Canada. So if you have that access, if you have that opportunity, why don't you just get it? You understand? Just like I said life is all about options. I was telling my brother, it's all about options. We all came to these countries, Canada, US, because we just needed option. We needed a plan B. That's okay. If Nigeria doesn't work for me, if at the end of the day anything happens that happens and it doesn't favor me, Would I have another country to actually call home? Yes, and that is what Canada basically, US basically is all about. Do you understand? So, as I said, on the flip side, the UK and the US continue to follow a downward trend, both dropping a spot since January 2025. So, if you look at the top countries like the UK and the US, instead of them improving in their rankings, they have been going downwards. But it's not that quite significant. It's just one spot. So like the US being from the what they call it, ninth position, getting to the 10th position. You understand? The passports with the largest fall over the decade are Venezuela, which dropped 15 positions, followed by the US, dropped eight positions. Vanuatu dropped 6 positions, and the UK 5 position, and Canada 4 spots. So of course, Canada too has actually been affected by the drop, but again, it has still been higher than what higher than the US. So about the Canadian passport, let's now talk specifically about the Canadian passport. We have been talking about the rankings of other countries, the rankings of top countries in the world. Let's now focus mainly on Canada. Now, they said in addition to offering visa free or visa on arrival access to 184 countries, the Canadian passport also streamlines re entry into Canada, making travel more convenient and efficient. What do they mean by that? They said many Canadians actually acquire citizenship automatically, either by being born in Canada or through descent from Canadian parents. So let me give you a kind of scenario. This is one of the benefits that some countries like the US can actually provide you with. You understand? Now, many Canadians can actually become, or many foreigners can become Canadians automatically. If, for instance, they were born in Canada, you know, like I've talked about my girl child that I gave birth to in Canada, she would become a Canadian automatically, just like many people know. You know, some people come into Canada just for that purpose. There's something we call the birth tourism. For the birth tourism, you can come into Canada. You understand? In fact, I've talked about one of my sisters, for instance, that is still in Nigeria. She has gone back to Nigeria, but she made sure that when she was pregnant, she came into Canada, stayed for some months. You understand? And she gave birth in Canada, and with, by virtue of the birth that she had in Canada, our own daughter now is a citizen of Canada, even although she is not a citizen yet because she hasn't gone through the PR process and you understand stayed here for long before she can become a citizen. But our daughter now is a citizen. Now that's one way for you to be born in Canada. The other way is through descent from Canadian parents. So let's say, for instance, you have a parent and one of your parents is a citizen of Canada. You might be qualified to become what, a citizen of Canada yourself. And also, the other way to become a Canadian citizen is through naturalization. And basically, naturalized Canadian citizens, on the other hand, must first become permanent residents and reside in Canada for at least 3 years before being eligible to apply for citizenship. That's what, for instance, we came to Canada to actually achieve. Do you understand? So there are basically three ways for you to become a citizen. Some people will always ask me that, oh, say I fit marry Oyinbo. You understand? Some people be asking me that, say A.O.S, please let me look for Oyinbo now. Let me look for Canadian woman. I want to marry Canadian woman. See, if you marry Canadian woman, that does not give you automatic citizenship in Canada. It doesn't give you automatic citizenship in Canada. You won't become a citizen by marrying Oyinbo person. If you don't know it now. Because some people always think maybe it's automatic. No, it is not. Yes, you can become a permanent resident. That person that you want to marry, that person you want to actually have a relationship, or you have already had a relationship with and you want to officiate it with, can actually work on what we know as family sponsorship for you. In other words, that person can run a spousal sponsorship whereby he says or she says, yes, I have a spouse in maybe like Nigeria, and I want to sponsor that person to come into Canada and stay with me, to live with me as a couple. You understand? In that aspect, that person would sponsor you to become a permanent resident. Though there are ways to sponsor, sometimes they can actually help you to do the spousal open work permit, where you get the work permit to be able to work in Canada, or to live in Canada permanently. They can run the permanent residency for you. But that does not mean you are going to become a citizen directly. No, you too also have to take your time. You also have to be in Canada for some time. You have to also, you understand, spend time in Canada at least 3 years within a 5 year period, you understand, before you can be eligible for what? For citizenship. If you don't come through naturalization, there's nothing like marriage. You can't come through marriage and become a citizen. Rather, you can be in Canada, you can get birthed in Canada, you can be born in Canada to become a citizen. And of course, if you are hearing me, you can't be born again. There's not like born again in Canada. So you can't be born again in Canada to become a citizen. Rather, your own child, you understand, can actually be born in Canada to become a Canadian citizen. Or if your child, or if you yourself, you as an adult want to become a citizen, or as a youngster want to become a citizen, you can do that through descent, family descent. Like, do you have your brother? I say your brother, your parents, whether your father or your mother being Canadian citizens, or maybe sometimes even your grandfather or your grandmother being Canadian citizens, and if they can be able to pass down that citizenship right to you. Do you understand? So is it that if you're an adult, you can either become a Canadian citizen through family descent or through what? Naturalization. And for naturalization, you have to become a permanent resident first. And that is what, for instance, we at A.O.S Abroad actually preach. If you want to become a citizen of Canada, the best way, or the most popular way you can do it, if you don't have a family member that can, you understand, pass down that citizenship to you, the next thing you need to do is to become a permanent resident first. How do you become a permanent resident first? That is where our expertise, as I said, comes in. And you can go on our website, aos.nim.ng, to learn how other people like you are also becoming citizens, also becoming permanent residents rather, of Canada. So you can become a permanent resident of Canada by following the what? By following the Canada immigration steps. Do you understand? The Canada immigration steps you have to follow, or the process you have to follow, are the processes that I've actually sent on the link. If you are, for instance, on TikTok, you can go on our profile on TikTok, or on what they call it, on Instagram, and just click on the link there. It will take you directly to our website, and on our website, you'll be able to see the 15-step process you need to go through to become a permanent resident of Canada. And a lot of people are becoming permanent residents right now. In fact, I would say to become a permanent resident in Canada is much more straightforward than to become a permanent resident in other countries. Do you understand? Especially the US, the Singapore, France, you understand, Denmark, all those places that we said that their passport actually ranks high. You understand, in UAE and other places, those other countries may not really give you permanent residence, especially right from your home country. You understand? Yes, I know the US has the lottery, but that is a game of chance, basically. It's a game of chance. When you want to be qualified to become a permanent resident of a country, I think Canada is one of the few countries in the world that can give you access to become a permanent resident of Canada by virtue of your what? By virtue of your qualifications, by virtue of your eligibility criteria. Do you understand? There are 7-step process, or 7 things you need to have, or you need to, you understand, check in order to be eligible for, you understand, permanent residency. The first 2 thing is your age. And some people would always ask me, I'm 40 years, I'm 55 years, I'm 60 something years. Can I still become a citizen, a permanent resident? And I'll tell them, you can become a permanent resident of Canada if you are willing to become a permanent resident of Canada. Because people will wish things, but at the end of the day, they will not be determined to get things. Because we have had people too that are youngsters like me, that are less than maybe 30 years of age, 20, in their early 20s, that they wish to become a permanent resident of Canada, but they are not determined enough to become a permanent resident of Canada. Meanwhile, our clients like Mr. Lawal, for instance, that came when he was 50 something years of age, You understand? Now he's like 56 and 57 now. His wife was like 40 something. And even though his wife was younger than him, his wife couldn't be the principal applicant. He was the principal applicant. And he was able to actually come to Canada because he was determined, even though he was a lecturer in Kwara State University, Ilorin, Nigeria. He said no, he must become a citizen, a permanent resident of Canada. He must do this for his family. So it is not a matter of can you, it's a matter of will you. You understand? It's not a matter of, oh, is this thing possible because of my age? A lot of people are older than you and becoming permanent residents. So the question is, are you determined enough to become permanent residents of Canada? If you are determined enough, if you want to help yourself, we said it. Why are people coming to many of these countries? We gave you three reasons, just like my brother in the US said. He said, one, some people want to become citizens of the country, right? In order to have access to, you understand, social benefits, you understand, to be seen as, like, to be valued as a citizen of a first world country. Number two, some people want to be able to give their children the citizenship. You understand? They want to be able to pass down the benefits that they themselves enjoyed as a citizen of the country. And lastly, some people want to have access to visa-free countries and visa on arrival countries, right? Just like me. In fact, me is everything I want to become. It's everything I want access to become a citizen myself, to give or pass down the citizenship to my children, and also to be able to travel because I like to travel. You understand? I like that, like my lifetime dream. And God willing, if I can be traveling every year, self, I'll be doing it. If you understand, when I have that access, when I have that funds, I can be traveling every year. Do you understand? So age is the first factor they will look at, and that is where, of course, you can go on our website aos.name.ng/pr to learn what you need to, even if your age is above 40 already. Some people always think that, oh, because express entry says 45, after you are 45, you start losing points on age, then you cannot come again. No, someone like Mr. Lawal, someone like Mrs. Onuba, you understand? So, I say Onuba, Adaba rather, Mrs. Adaba. These are people that were above 40, above 50, above 60, and they still came into Canada by virtue of what? Understanding that age is just one factor. It is not a limitation. It is just one factor. Yes, it is a major factor, but it is just one factor out of the seven factors. Do you understand? Age is one of it. Educational credentials is one of it. How educated are you? You understand? You don't need to necessarily have PhD, masters before you come into Canada. Do you understand? OND, HND, NCE, bachelors, even certificates can also help you to come into Canada. Do you understand? Again, your years of experience. And some people, in fact, now it's even much more easier for some people. Some people just need months of experience, just like 6 months of experience to be able to come into Canada. Yes, before, in our own time, they say, okay, years of experience and at least 3 years of experience to be considered serious. You understand? The more experience you have, the better. Some people have used 5 years, 10 years of experience to come in, and fine, it works for them. Me, I just use like more than 3 years, just 3 years and 3 months. It's just, so years of experience is another factor that you need to actually come into Canada. Your spousal factors. Sometimes you may want to come in with your own family member. Some people, there's one of our clients that got selected yesterday, or let me say perhaps the son of our clients, not our clients directly. You understand? The son of our clients got selected, part of the what they call it, the healthcare and social services occupation. We are still going to share a story another time. He got selected, you understand, to actually become a permanent resident in Canada through the healthcare and social services occupation category under the express entry. And this is someone that, yes, his years of experience is actually limited. Yes, he has studied in Canada, but again, his age is about 30 something plus of age. Do you understand? His spouse didn't have any points. His spouse didn't have any points that she added to actually assist him to become or to apply or to create the express entry profile. But spousal factors is one of the factors I used when I was coming with my own common law partner to actually come into Canada and become a permanent resident. Do you understand? If you have, just like I said, like the person that actually got selected yesterday now, if you have educational credentials from Canada, you understand, like you have studied in Canada, that can be a factor. If you don't have, I didn't have, so that's not compulsory for you as well. But if you have, fine, you can also use your education that you have gotten, the degree, the certificates, the diploma you got in Canada. If you also have work experience in Canada, which is the sixth factor, you can also use work experience. It's not compulsory, you understand? But if you have it, it can be an added advantage. Do you understand? And lastly, if you have a job offer in Canada, or maybe anything that can aid your survivability in Canada, like a friend, a family member, you understand? Anything that can aid your survivability in Canada, for especially some PMP programs that require it, that can also help you in your immigration process. But at the end of the day, we have found out that many people have eligibility or four eligibility, and that may be enough for them. I, for instance, it was just out of the four I had, out of the seven, so just four I had. Do you understand that I used to come into Canada? And what were they? My age, my education, my work experience, and what again? My age, my education, my work experience, my occupation. Yes, my occupation. Occupation was another thing that assisted me to come into Canada, because instead of me saying I was just a language teacher, I went into tech. You understand? That time when IT was really much in demand. So at the end of the day, what exactly do you have to actually become a permanent resident first, which is like the first step to becoming a citizen of the country of Canada? The first step is becoming a permanent resident. The first step is not becoming what? If an international student. It is not becoming a temporary foreign worker in Canada. It is not becoming a visitor. It is not applying for refugee. Yes, if you apply for refugee and they give you that asylum status, yes, you become a permanent resident. Yes, of course. But what we are trying to say is, if you want something that can assist you to become a citizen of the country, that can assist you to get the international passport of Canada, do you understand? That can kind of shoot your process, shoot your eligibility, that can kind of fast track your steps towards citizenship, then it is permanent resident. And to become a permanent resident, those were the seven steps or seven process or seven eligibility criteria I talked about. What are the steps that you need? We have talked about it. We have said that there are 15-step processes for you to become a permanent resident of Canada. What are those processes? You can go on our website, aos.name.ng/PR, or if you are in any of our platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, any of those, just go on the bio. You understand? Click on the link on the bio, and you'll be taken or redirected directly to to our website to learn more about all the necessary information you need to actually work towards becoming a permanent resident of Canada. There are various ways many people become permanent residents of Canada. You can go through the DIY, just like I did. I do always tell people I did my own immigration myself, and I always advise people to actually do their own immigration processes themselves. If you know about it, information is what you need, education is what you need, and that's what we are here for. We would educate you freely on what you need to do, how you need to go about it yourself. Do you understand? That was what I did. You understand? I educated myself on what I needed to do to become a permanent resident. And that's exactly what we are doing for you here, to educate you on how to become a permanent resident yourself through the DIY process. Okay, thank you. Walton88 said, knowledge is power. Of course, knowledge is potential power. Let me just add that to you. It's potential power. If you use the knowledge that you have, then it is power for you. But if you don't use it, you just assimilated it, but you don't use it, it will become a power for you. And that is where, again, apart from the DIY, there's also the DIT, do it together process, whereby we, together with our immigration partners, can assist you to work on your immigration. We, for instance, at A.O.S Abroad, we can assist you with the language requirements, we can assist you with the career trainings, we can assist you with getting your credentials sorted, your evaluation, your experience sorted. Things like that we can assist you with that. Likewise, our immigration partners can assist you with the visa processes, with the visa applications and things like that. So if you want us to assist you, again, go on that link, aos.name.ng/PR, and we can definitely assist you on that. There's also the done for you process, DFY, where some people just say, okay, no, just assist me with everything, all those things. Then our immigration partners, our immigration consultants will come, the Kesri Immigration, they can actually help you. Kestrel Immigration Services can help you. You understand? Also, our immigration lawyer can help. And some people don't always tell us that, okay, you have been talking about Canada. What of US? Yes, we have an immigration lawyer in US that can also assist you to become a green card holder. Do you understand? In the US, I don't know anything about US. I always talk about it. I don't know anything about US, but we have an immigration lawyer that can also. If, for instance, you are still juggling, that you want to decide, is it Canada I should go to, or is it US I should go to, even with the passport differences and everything, then you can book a consultation with us. You understand? Just go on the link again, and you will see where to actually book a consultation once you click on the link, and we can assist to choose the best option for you. Because at the end of the day, it's all about options. Life is just about having more options. Do you understand? I am a Nigerian, that is my option. Hey, and I didn't choose that option at the end of the day because they chose it for me. God just chose it for me, not even my children, not even my family. It was God that chose it. That you will be from Nigeria, you don't have any choice. You understand? But I now have the choice to decide, where do I want to actually reside in permanently? Do I want to reside still in Nigeria, or did I choose the latter, being in Canada? And I think everybody knows that already. I chose the latter, to be in what? To be in Canada. And again, I have the, what they call it, the decision to decide, where do I want to retire? Do I still want to retire in Canada after working for years, or do I want to also retire maybe like in the Middle East where there's big money, Saudi money, Arab money? You understand? Or like Singapore, all these Asian countries. So you will decide yourself, but again, at the end of the day, let your decisions, the options you choose, let it really be the best for you and for your family members. So thank you very much. If we have any questions, this is the time to ask. We have about 3 minutes before we go. If you have any questions, drop it in the comment section. Let me see if I can respond to any questions before we call it a day. And yes, I was so happy by one of our doctors. Yes, one of our doctors got selected yesterday. Yesterday, I was still talking about it just anyhow. I didn't know that one of our clients would get selected. So he got selected. We'll still be talking about his own scenario. His own scenario too is very funny. You understand how he even got selected? Just like play, like, sometimes you just play, you love this and do these things. But he got selected, and he would benefit not only himself now, but his wife that he just got married to last year would also benefit and become permanent residents of Canada. And also his mother, his father, and his siblings will also have access to permanent residence by virtue of, we'll still talk about his own case is very, very special. We'll still talk about his own case and how, you understand, he got selected for Canada immigration yesterday. Okay, Walton 88 said, can one apply for jobs on Job Bank and get his way to Canada? Absolutely. A lot of people are applying for jobs in Job Bank to get selected. Will you get selected through that way? I don't know, because it depends on how well you are applying. Will you have access to, because sometimes you have access to jobs, but you are not qualified for the jobs. That's another issue. Sometimes you can get qualified for jobs, but the way you are applying is not the way you are meant to be applying, because some people will just be focusing on Job Bank. I remember a lot of people who say, I applied to hundreds of jobs, they did not call me back, they did not do this. And we'll ask, have you been networking well? Have you been actually sending your resumes to the right platforms? Have you just not only focused on the emails they provided for you on the Job Bank, but going on LinkedIn to actually connect with people in those communities, people in those companies? You say no. Okay, how have you been going on the website of the companies that you are applying to make sure that you see what exactly they need? Because sometimes they may be posting something different on Job Bank, but what they need is on their website, on the careers aspect of their website, but you didn't go there and check. And at the end of the day, you are just applying there, but they are not selecting you. Do you know someone that can actually put a word in that company to state that, yes, so I know this person from back home, or of course, if you don't even know anybody from in Canada already, but you have started building relationships with people on LinkedIn. That's what LinkedIn is for. People always think that it's just to post. It's just to see people that will just say, yes, I graduated today, I got this. No, it's for networking, it's for connections. So have you started, even if you don't know anybody in Canada, have you started building connections? I remember there are some of the clients that we are working with now that actually reached out to me on LinkedIn, and they were saying, oh, you are in Canada now, you are this, please can you help me put a word in a company like this to say things? Even though me, I'm not in the company. I say, okay, no, me, I'm not in the company, but I can link you up to someone that, you understand, can assist you in the company. I can link you up to someone that can talk to you from that company and tell you what exactly they need, and to see if they can really check to see your eligibility, to see that are you truly the person that they are looking for. So how are you networking? How are you connecting? To get a job is not a day's job because looking for a job is a job itself. Looking for a job, especially from abroad, is a job itself. And in fact, it will take you 6 months, 1 year or more to get a job. Are you ready? That's where my question comes in again. Are you just wishing to come to Canada, or are you determined to make sure you do everything it takes to get that job and to actually get your way into Canada? If you are not ready, if you are just looking at, oh, okay, I just applied to 4 jobs, they did not pick me, and you are discouraged, you are not yet ready. You are still whining yourself. So you are not yet ready. But if you are determined, and that's where again we come in at A.O.S Abroad, especially we go on our online school, aosacademy.com. You will see our career abroad package where we train people on how to actually get jobs, you understand, in Canada, and how to make sure that they have that first-hand access to recruiters, first-hand access to companies that are needing them. There are a lot of what they call it now, programs that are coming up now, like the Rural Immigration Pilot Program, the what they call it, the Francophone Immigration Pilot Program for those that are learning French with us already. We have some people that are learning French for that purpose that will get a job and would also use their French knowledge to come into Canada. We have some people that are just learning French alone, you understand, on our website, aosacademy.com, to actually migrate through that pathway. We also have some people that are saying, okay, my own is to try to look for a job. I want to look for a job. I want to let them sponsor me, right? I want to let them sponsor me. So if you want them to sponsor you, how are you showing that you are a tool? How are you showing that you are worth that sponsorship? Because I'll not lie to you, to get a job sponsorship now in Canada is not a job, it's not a day's job, and it's not easy as it used to be before. It's not. It's not easy as it used to be before. You have to be someone that they cannot just not recruit. You are the best of the best. So and how can you be the best of the best is for you to show the path. You understand? I still talked about it one time. I said, how are some people willing to work for free, work for volunteerism before they even get a full-time job whilst they are still in their home country? I talked about that extensively in some of our live sessions before. And I said, there are some people that they work for free. I remember one of the persons we recruited for Nigeria that worked for free. He's still in Nigeria though. He's not yet in Canada. But he has worked for free for our company for like a year right now. And I will not say for free because it started for free, but later we started paying him. You understand? So don't think maybe we are just using him. We have started paying him, but even the payment now is already like 500,000 per month, while still being in Nigeria. And now our company is taking it by, you understand, on themselves to actually help him work on his own immigration for free, because he has actually worked and showed that he is someone that we need in Canada. So how are you willing to work for volunteerism? How are you willing to work for things before you? It's not that you just be thinking everything money, money, money. You may be thinking money, money, but at the end of the day, the company that wants to employ you will not see you and will not employ you because they feel that you are just in for what they will give you and what you are not willing to give something in return. Because at the end of the day, sponsorship, it comes as an expense to the company. Them too will have to pay Canada to bring you into the country. So if you are not now willing to also give something in return, I'm talking about money, because it's illegal to collect money from a person that you are recruiting. But are there other things you can do to show that you are really needed? You are really in tune to actually give something in return? Are you someone that you are willing to show your expertise before you come into the country? Okay, I rest my case. That was just a question. I don't know why I've talked too much about that. I hope that assisted you to learn more how to actually get jobs and get your way into Canada. If you have any other further questions, even after this live session, drop it on the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget, every week we come on at least once every week to talk about trending topics in Canada. So you can always join our subsequent live sessions. So thank you very much, everyone, and do have a lovely day ahead. Bye for now. Au revoir.